will now move on to call Tan Manjeet to Singh Desai for 8 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mandel, and it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And my gratitude also to honourable members who have spoken so passionately and eloquently today on what I know can be a very divisive and emotive issue for our constituents. I know honourable members here today have put forward their well-considered views on what is such an important topic for the future of our transport system. And I know those that have signed this petition have important concerns which must be addressed. Whilst I believe HS2 should continue to be built and built in full, I feel government has failed to address such concerns adequately. Today's debate, Mr. Mandel, comes at a very important time for the HS2 project. A year today, formal construction on the project began, building from London to Birmingham, rather than starting from the north, as Labour advocated. In that time, HS2 has launched 2 giant tunnel boring machines, provided 20,000 jobs and much more besides. And it has taken over a decade to get to this point. Back in 2009, a Labour government announced the birth of this project in the face of growing rail usage for both passengers and freight caused by, and I quote, passenger choice, better rail services, road congestion and environmental factors, with the project aiming to cut journey times and, crucially, increase capacity substantially. And until recently, this remained unchanged. Between June 2018 and June 2019, the number of passenger journeys reached a staggering 1.77 billion. So naturally, as home working became the norm, questions arose around HS2, as honourable and right honourable members have highlighted today. But meaning one of the main critiques from this petition is the substantial impact of the pandemic. There is no denying that the past 18 months have had a substantial impact on rail. And its lowest last year, levels dipped to a mere 4% in comparison to the norm. And as people tentatively return to offices, many have chosen to drive over using our railways, with train commuting at just 33% of 2019 levels. But the answer, Mr. Mandel, is not to give up and end construction. Abandon the progress HS2 could make on decarbonising billions of passenger and freight miles. Yes, I shall.
I wonder if the honourable gentleman were in receipt of the 85 megabits of documentation from whistleblowers within HS2 and the Department of Transport, which indicated that Phase 1 now is unlikely to be open for passengers before 2041, and the whole project is going to be £160 billion in today's money. Phase 1 is already £70 billion, and the enabling works are running massively over budget. They're being suppressed, and that's going to be thrown into the main budget at the end.
I very much thank my honourable friend, and I think that he has made the point that I have made thus far, but also will continue to make within my speech, namely that the government has not got a grip of the project. And it is right that the opinions of whether it's whistleblowers or others within the industry and within our communities is taken into account, because we cannot have ballooning costs, and we must ensure that the project is delivered in full, but also within budget. And Mr. Mandel, as I was saying, we cannot abandon the progress that HS2 could make on decarbonising billions of passenger and, as honourable members have pointed out, freight miles. We cannot reverse the construction progress made or the jobs created. It is to make our railways work better for passengers. It means committing to HS2 in full, including the eastern leg to Leeds, and I know that people, especially in the East Midlands and the North, feel very passionately about that, and the people that I have spoken to in and around Leeds. It is to ensure that connectivity at HS2 stations for onward travel, whether that's bus stops, taxi ranks or park and ride, actually making flexible season tickets flexible, reducing delays, improving our rolling stock, guaranteeing they are modern, clean and accessible. It is to address the issues which the project effectively and it should be run efficiently, like those raised on the local environment and local communities through the construction of HS2. And as I'm sure the Minister is aware, I am not alone in these concerns. I know my honourable friend, the member for Oxford East, has written to him on the issue of ancient woodlands and the environmental impact of HS2, as well as on behalf of her constituents, about the uncertainty around the project. I will very briefly, please.
Thank you. I thank you for giving way. Just to speak on behalf of the people of Denham and the ancient woodlands in Denham Regional Park and also Colne Valley, there's been destruction there, both to the ancient woodlands and to the aquifer, and I just ask those, we are at the coalface to remember the environmental damage that is being done.
I thank my honourable friend, and the reason why I gave way to her, Mr. Mundell, is, as well as indicating, is she is my neighbour, and I know that on behalf of her constituents, she wanted to get those things on record. And in fact, I agree with her to the extent that when I last spoke in Parliament extensively on this matter, it was when the government accepted Labour's amendments on these two key issues: to report on the impact on our ancient woodland in order to protect it, and to properly consult with local communities. So I hope the Minister is mindful of these two important factors in the continued construction of HS2. Ultimately, it is those in the villages, towns and cities along the route who will know best about the environmental and logistical issues that it will bring. Prioritising engagement and transparency is the best way to deliver this project. Mr. Mundell, to encourage even more people to travel by rail as one of the least polluting mass transport forms, rail should be the most convenient, affordable and connected. We cannot lose sight of the initial reason for building this project. If we fail to provide these solutions for passengers, then they will simply resort to more polluting and convenient forms of travel. Just last week, and this is definitely the last intervention, briefly please.
Does he agree that given the scale of the numbers attending today and the scale of the project, this sort of debate is worthy of the main chamber and for much longer?
I thank my honourable friend, and yes, I am always more than happy to engage in a debate within the main chamber, and given the level of excitement and passion within many right honourable members, I think that the government and indeed the Leader of the House should be looking very closely at that. Just last week, Mr. Mundell, the Rail Delivery Group warned that a further 20% shift from rail to roads will lead to an increase of some 300 million hours of traffic congestion. We cannot allow the pandemic to push us backwards in the plight to decarbonise transport, and the impact of returning commuters and building HS2 is wider than just transport, with £30 billion in high street spending crucial for keeping businesses open in our towns and city centres. Indeed, many businesses and commuters have made crucial plans around the guarantee of HS2 being delivered, and government have promised that this will stimulate the economy and rebalance the north-south divide. But continued failures from government to properly commit to the eastern leg to Leeds paints a very different picture. No integrated rail plan, no Northern Powerhouse Rail, no eastern leg. Does the Minister think that this is good enough? Siemens, Hitachi, Alstom, ACOM, British Steel, Mace and Babcock and many other businesses certainly don't. This week, they noted that scaling back the line would have a devastating impact on confidence in the industry, and that it will be the communities in those regions who will be most let down should the eastern leg not move forward. So I would welcome the Minister to address this in his response. Government's usual dither and delay just won't cut it, because it's a very mismanagement of HS2, Mr. Mundell, which has left government contemplating this decision to abandon those promises. Ballooning costs and persistent delays, which have become characteristic of this government, have hurt communities, leading to some losing their confidence in such a project. And so that's why I would urge the government and HS2 to get a grip of this. So whilst the Labour Party stands behind the completion of HS2, this does not mean that concerns from constituents can be ignored. And I hope that the Minister has listened today and will provide some concrete reassurance on the environment, costs and business case for HS2, because if we do not commit to HS2 in full, significantly increase capacity in our network and encourage this seismic shift towards rail, then our fare net zero may be out of reach and communities will be left behind. And we must ensure that the government delivers, therefore, Mr. Mundell, on its promises. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And